Hi there. Series number 8. I'm hoping that you've listened to the first 7 because the idea is to build on these stories as I'm going along so you'd make more sense from what I'm talking about, because sometimes I'm telling you stories which are a bit crazy, stories that ended up as high risk. It wasn't all that, and the ones that I'm telling you about, they all had happy endings. I'm still here, for goodness sake, so therefore they would just happen to be a set of circumstances that just came together. The planets lined up on the right day, and there we go. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a couple of little hairy stories. This first one probably is the most stupid and high-risk thing I did, bar nothing. And yet it all sort of happened so fast that I didn't really have time to actually think until afterwards just what had just happened. So I was coming back through Turkey into Greece, long ride, tired, got to the west side of Greece, and I want to get a boat over to Italy. So I'm in South Greece. I'm going to get a boat into a ferry into southern Italy, and I'm going to ride up from there. That was the rough plan. Didn't have anything planned. I didn't have anything booked, and I turn up at a port. I've told you before, one of the big people that I always talk to, truckers, talk to truck drivers, they know everything. And most of them speak English as well, especially the international ones. So if you see an international plate on the back of a truck, every probability that he speaks English. So I turn up about 6 o'clock in the evening, full of the joys of spring, full of all the optimism in the world that I'm going to get a nice little ferry over and I'm going to be in Italy in a few hours from now. That would have been perfect. Booked into a hotel I would have been, and everything would have been wonderful. Great. Didn't transpire. Get there, and I'm looking around. There's no big ferries knocking around. I'm thinking, what's going on here? See a trucker. Said to him, what's the score? Because he must be waiting for a ferry. And he said, yeah. He said, next ferry leaves 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Oh, God. I didn't want to stay there. I wanted to get on with things. Joking, you know. I said, so there's nothing going over from no ferries. He said, no. He said, there's no ferries at all. He said, you're on a motorbike, kiddo. He said, if I was you, he said, I'd go and ask one of the fishing guys. He said, they'll probably take you over. He said, I'm sure that they're going now anyway. So I thought, okay, ask, no problems at all. So I go over and I ask what was, I didn't know, but he's a crew member. And I said, any chance of me jumping aboard, bringing my motorbike with me? Are you going to Italy? They wouldn't have been going anywhere else because that's where they were crossing over to. And he said, yeah, no problem. He said, we leave in an hour. He said, he said, you can do that, no problem at all. He said, you'll have to have a word with the skipper. He said, he'll either charge you something. And I went, I haven't got a problem. I was going to pay for a ferry anyway. And he said, he'll either charge you something or he'll make you do something. As it was, he did. He made me do something, preparing vegetables. Not that many as well, so it was a good cop-out for me. So, with that, they said, right, and they had a high-ab crane, and they put the bike on a sling, more than a sling, blanket-sized sling, shoved the bike on there, lifted it. There we go, nice and steady. Not nice and steady. This thing struggled, literally, all the way around as it swings around onto the boat. It's going to drop the bike. It was hand in heart, literally heart in mouth, should I say. Thankfully, it made it, but only just. Virtually packed in the high-ab crane by the time I said drop the bike in there. Lowered the bike down, I climb on board, and the crew member says to me, don't let them take the risk of using that crane to get the bike off And I went, I totally agree. And he said, you'll be all right. He said, you'll just be able to get bike off. He said, but don't put it back on that. And I said, absolutely. I said, I would all the way around there. I was thinking this is going to drop. And he said, we were lucky to get away with that. Okay, fine. So we get to Italy. Can't remember how long it was. 3 hours, something like that. Don't know. Wasn't that long. Fairly short trip. We get to Italy, and I've then got to get this bike off. Water was rough, so the boat's moving. Okay. Land is nice and flat. Nice concrete path there. But the boat's moving up and down. How are we going to get the bike off? One lad says, I know what to do. And he puts 2 planks of wood, maybe 9 inches wide, next to each other, reaches from the boat to there. They lift the bike for me. 3 lads lifted the bike for me, tell me to get on the bike, and all I have to do is ride in a nice straight line on a plank of wood, on 2 planks of wood, with a lad at the end holding the 2 planks so that they don't split. And the boat's still giving it this as I'm sitting on there. And before I knew it, because I don't want to make this into a big drama, it happened really quick. And everything was fine. I just rode the thing off. It was immediately afterwards when I thought back to the fact that the drop was a good 10 metres straight into water, end of the bike, probably end of me because the boat was bashing or would have been bashing against the side concrete anyway. An insane risk, absolutely insane risk, probably the biggest single physical risk that I took in all of the 6 or 7 trips that I did. This was the one that was just absolutely stupid. And when the captain saw what had happened, he wasn't there when it happened, but he came out because there was a roar of applause. Everybody clapped when I got to the other side. He came running out of the cabin, only a little boat, remember, and he was wild. I mean, I tell you what, if he had been not on the boat, but instead on the quayside with me, he would have flattened me without any doubt at all. All I did was got on the bike and went. I didn't look back at it and got out the crew. No idea. I'm assuming that the crew were in massive trouble for that. So that was undoubtedly, physically, the biggest and most stupid risk that I took on all of the trips. Then there were other things that I still say were calculated risks. But again, when I look back, and I don't try to look back to make them glorified. I don't try to look through rose-tinted glasses and say, oh, wow. Well, I definitely don't. I'm not sitting here saying I'm some type of hero to do these things. Not at all. Not at all. They're fun. And I was single and I didn't care. So there was a moment in my life when I didn't really truthfully care too much about the consequences. And it was a bizarre feeling because when you're a father and when you're a husband and a boss of your own company, you've got bucket loads of responsibility. And suddenly at the age of 58, I found myself single, not really having any responsibilities direct of any description. And that's why some of these risks happened. They occurred. So here's a fun one for you. I've got to be careful here because I really don't want to name the countries because I shouldn't have done what I did. So I was in a country which didn't require a visa. And I was actually in a part of the country where I was perfectly happy. I was on one night there, and somebody in the hotel said, listen, whilst you're in this country, you should really head north and you should go to the top of our country, close to the border. It's beautiful. You'll see mountains and really, really, oh, okay. So I got persuaded and that was fine. When I got to this village, and it was only a village that I got to, there were thousands of people. I mean, not hundreds, thousands of people there. It's a tiny little village. And I went into the hotel. There was only one. And And I must be honest, I probably knew the answer before even asking, do you have a room? No, we do not have a room. All right, okay. I said, what's going on? And they explained there was a music festival, traditional music, but strange stuff, tradition to that particular country. And I said, wow, and they said, yeah, because what happens is the thousands of people that are here, and I'm not exaggerating, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, thousands, in this tiny little village. They've all come from the other country, which I would have needed a visa to get into. They've all crossed the border for this musical concert, and then during the evening or tomorrow morning, they will go home. Oh, okay, fine. All right, well, I'm going to stick around. And I did stick around, and actually the lady found me a room, which was very, very good. So it wasn't really a hotel room as such. It was more like a cupboard, but it didn't really matter. It was somewhere for me to kip down later on, if I'd wanted it. So I then found myself in this music festival, which was very interesting and wasn't my type of music, but it was very interesting and everybody's having fun and all the rest of it. And people have latched onto the fact that I'm a stranger and I'm unusual, and I've got talking to some people, and the people I've got talking to are from the other country. They have crossed the border into this village, blah, 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 and they're telling me all about this, blah, blah, blah. And it comes to round about midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, things start to quieten down, and people start heading back to their respective homes. And my little group of people say, why don't you come with us? And I said, yeah, it's a good idea. I've had a few beers, so I'm not really thinking straight. And I walk with them, and we walk through what was a border, but no one was checking because there's droves of us. There's thousands of us. We're like a train of people just walking through. Fairly long walk, couple of miles on the other side. We ended up in a town where stayed there till the early hours in a little square. We all just sat there drinking some wine, and eventually a hotel offered us coffees in the morning, so we had some coffees in the morning. And then the realisation happens. I then wake up I haven't got any sleep, but I wake up thinking, hang on a minute, I'm in this country, no visa, no passport's back in the hotel, all of my paperwork's in the hotel. How am I going to get back? Big problem, huge problem. I explained to my new friends that I don't have a visa. They didn't really understand what a visa was and why would I need a visa, but because between these two countries, you didn't need a visa if you lived in these two countries. They were almost sister countries. But an outsider like a Brit, you need a visa. So I've got a problem. I've got to get back. And with their help, we ended up walking through a bit of a forest area until we got reasonably close to the border, when they were then very nervous and wouldn't go any further, just pointed me in the right direction. I walked through, and thankfully that was the end of the issue. But again, I look back and I smile and I think to myself, yeah, idiot, you put yourself in a situation, you were lucky to get away with it. It was one of those crazy moments, crazy things to do. I got away with it. So what can I say? Again, I'm going to emphasise, I'm not trying to be in any way a hero. It was just a set of circumstances that happened, blah, blah, blah. There we go. A bit of a funny story for you now, away from risks, more of an interest one, really. On one of my trips when I was well north of the Arctic Circle, it was about 500 or 600 miles north of the Arctic Circle, I decided I was going to visit a village called Svarstad, which is right at the top of the planet, right at the top of Norway. It's actually the highest fishing village, or highest village in the world, before you hit the old Arctic. Svarstad, lovely little place. Couple of little funny stories about this one. First thing is that it's at the end of the world, so the signposts keep on saying this way, this way, this way, but it doesn't tell you how many miles. You're just going forever and ever and ever, and it's on the end of a peninsula. So eventually you get there, and it is worthwhile getting there. It's a gorgeous little fishing village. I don't know what the population is, a couple of hundred people, I guess. I don't know. I have no idea at all. So there's one hotel there. I get to the hotel and I said, can I have a room, please? And the lady said, well, yes. She said, I have one room available. So I said, oh, great, And she said, out of interest, she said, you've come all this way? I said, yes. She said, the last hotel, apart from here, where you've come from. Remember, she's at the end of a peninsula, so she's not confused about which direction. There's only one direction to the place. So she said that if we didn't have that last room available here, she said, you would have had to have gone back like 3 hours ride from here. That's the nearest hotel. I said, oh, all right, yeah. So she said, why didn't you book? She said, her English was like absolutely first class. She said, what would you have done if I had said to you, no, we haven't got a room? And because I'm a Scouser, a bit of a sense of humour, very quickly I said, it would have been your lucky day. So she said, in what way? And I said, if you hadn't got a room for a hotel, I'd be staying with you. She thought it was funny as well. So we had a good laugh about that. She was a good girl. She had a really good sense of humour. So anyway, I had myself a room, not a problem at all. And I would then, it's very cold, even though it was in the summertime, it was a really cold day. And I had to walk around this village. And the first thing I came across, which was really bizarre, was, and I genuinely didn't have a clue what these were. So for me, I'm just going to describe to you how I felt and what I couldn't understand. Walking round, and in everyone's garden were javelins. That's the only way I can describe them. They look like javelins, and they were javelins, really, stuck in the ground, abstractly, lots of them, in every garden. I thought, very, very bizarre. Now, I'm aware in the winter you have things for the depth of snow and things like that, but these weren't that, and they didn't have markers on them or anything. They literally looked like javelin throwers. And I just couldn't understand it. There was nothing that made sense about this at all. I had no idea. When I came back to the hotel, I asked the woman then, I said, well, what were they for? And she said, oh, they protect the lawns against reindeer. She said, because the reindeer will come along otherwise and eat all the grass. So she said, so they're there so that they come along and clatter along. And ironically, I should have even been able to work that out, because there was a moment where I was walking along, and it's a funny thing, isn't it, us human beings? We occasionally have a sense of something following us. And when you're travelling on your own, your senses become quite astute. You become very aware of where you are in the middle of a town, in a city. You pay attention to where you are because you haven't got anyone else to ask. So if you get lost, you're going to get lost. So you remember things much more. And I had this sense that someone was following me, and it wasn't someone. It was a reindeer. And I turned round and there was a reindeer. And as soon as I turned round, the reindeer stopped. And then I continued to walk. Then the reindeer followed me. And it was so... when she explained that, it was very interesting. Now, not just in that area, but in that area of a little bit further over in Sweden and in Finland, they have these wonderful, wonderful people. In America, you'd call them Eskimos, Samis. And I was massively, massively fortunate that when I was in that area, which was between Sweden and Finland, I came across a Sami village. It's actually been pointed out to me, geographically, it had been pointed out to me on the map that someone had told me there is a Sami village up there, but they'd explained you can't go into it and blah, 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 blah. So I'm on my motorbike, I make the right turning, and I end up at the top of a hill looking down, on a village and I can see people, but I'm a distance away, a mile, let's say, with no intention of riding into their village. I'd already been told that was a no-go, and you could see there were no cars there, that there was a dusty track leading to it, blah, blah, blah. But a guy walked up to me, and I watched him, and he was clearly not going to cause any trouble. I probably expected him to get to me and say, please turn around and go away. But he didn't. He came up and asked me what I wanted. And I said, I don't want anything. I said, I believe that you Sami people. Yes, he said. And I said, I was just interested. And he said, well, why didn't you come into the village? And I said, because I was told that wasn't the right thing to do. And he said, oh, no, we don't have a problem. He said, if you wish to come. And they were great. I spent the evening there. I spent the overnight there. Very peaceful people, very interesting people. And another example again, I know I keep on saying it, but I promise you, I believe this with all of my... I believe this in every way possible, that if there was more than me on my own, I don't think I would have been invited to all these opportunities. I think travelling on your own, you just are not threatening to anyone. And as a result, they see you as the person who they can invite and they can help and they can enjoy time with you. Fantastic. I can't recommend more to go travelling on your own. I've just had these wonderful experiences. Funnily enough, experiences that I also came to the end of the road with. It coincided with when I met the lady who was now my wife. But I actually knew, I just met her, so she wasn't my wife, she wasn't my girlfriend, she was just a person I had just met. But during that trip, I actually knew this was the last one I wanted to do. And the reason for that, and I don't ever want to do another trip on my own, and the reason for it is that I've visited every single country and every single place in those countries that I wanted to. Of course, there's thousands of places I haven't been to. There's millions of places I haven't been to. But I've got no interest in doing Route 66. Couldn't think of anything worse than Route 66. 55 mile per hour on a great big highway in America? No, I don't want to do that. I've got lots of ambitions to do short trips now. I want to go to Ireland. I want to go to Isle of Man, so they're on my doorstep. On motorbikes, by the way, I want to do certainly Ireland on a motorbike I want to do. And then in Central Europe, I've got lots of places that I want to go to, which I will go to with my wife. Safe places, places that we can just relax. I don't need any more of the dare or seeing. I don't need to go back to the places I've seen, and I've visited every single one of those countries on a motorbike that I want to. So there was closure for me. That was actually very nice. I've got all these wonderful stories, and I've written 2 books, and I'm doing these podcasts, and I do talks about them all the time. And I'll carry on doing that because I want to influence. I want to excite people, and I want to make sure that if there's someone out there that wants to do it, I'm the person that give you the confidence. If I can do it, anybody can do it. So therefore, I'm full of that enthusiasm to pass on, to say, please go and find your own stories. But mine were exhausted then. I had complete closure and a complete sense of, wow, I've just done every single thing that I've wanted to do. And along the road, I've taken some risks, and I don't want to do that anymore. There was a real closure point from there. I think that's great, by the way, because if I was still pining to do something else, okay, I'd be doing it. I understand that. But there is something nice about having done something. Somebody said to me recently that at this age, I'm 66 now, and they said at this age, what's a nice thing to do is instead of having these big ambitions, right the way through my life, I've always thought on a 31st of December, what do I want to do this year? I've even written them down, I want to pay off my mortgage, or I want to buy a new motorbike, or I want to travel to so-and-so. There's always things that I wanted to do, like a tick list, and I still do that. But this friend of mine said something that really hit home with me. And he told me that what he loved more than anything else, now he had got to this age, was to look back on the previous year and think to himself, if I had that year again, is there anything that I would change? Is there anything that I wish I'd done that I didn't do, or I did do that I wish that I hadn't done? And he said, that's the most wonderful feeling. And it is absolutely true. You get to a stage in your life where you're actually thinking to yourself, what I'm doing now is exactly what I want to do. And when you come to the end of your year, you can look back and go, wow, I wouldn't change any of that at all. So I wouldn't change any of the trips that I've done, but I don't need to do them again. And I don't need to do any more of them. So again, please, if there's someone out there that hasn't yet done the first step into Bruges in Belgium or whatever, and then taken the next big step and gone to Germany, and then the next one, and then the next one. If you haven't started that venture yet, that adventure, please do it. Please go for it. But also, one day, maybe it was only after 2 trips, maybe it would take you 20 trips. Having the closure is really nice as well, to know, okay, that's enough now. And, yeah, relive those stories. And that's exactly what I feel I'm doing now, which is great. Little bit of part of a trip. I'm just going to describe what happened over about a 4-day period. Every planet lined up for me in this 4 days. It was completely breathtaking and amazing. Sometimes when you're in a country, you just come across something by luck, good fortune, you don't really know. I didn't plan a lot of this stuff. This particular trip I was going to Azerbaijan. I wanted to get to the Caspian Sea. I wanted to stand on the edge of the Caspian Sea and think to myself, right, straight ahead of me is Afghanistan, and slightly to the right is Pakistan. And just the feeling of, wow. And also, when I did get there to the Caspian Sea, I was 5,000 miles away from home. It's an amazing number where you're thinking, wow, take a deep breath. That's a distance that I've ridden. And I haven't ridden 5,000 miles. I've ridden 7,500 miles because I've zigzagged to get there. I haven't gone in a straight line. You couldn't go in a straight line. The roads don't take you that way. So on this particular trip, I had crossed over Turkey, huge country, and I came to Georgia. And in Georgia, I decided that I was going to go to the capital city because I didn't know anything about Georgia. But before then, and this is just pure coincidence, I didn't know any of this at all. But I saw a road sign and I was ready for, it was late afternoon and I was ready for a break, but wasn't going to stop overnight yet. I was going to carry on for a few more hours, head further over. And I stopped in this place called Batumi and I'd never heard of it. It just was a road sign, but it was a big road sign, 3 or 4 exits to it, so it was obviously a big city. And sure enough, it was a big place, right on the sea, beautiful. Now, as all tourists do, whenever there is a group of people watching something, you're inclined to join the back and you try and find out what's the attraction. And I'm riding down the beach road, the main road on the beach, and I come across this huge gathering of people. I don't know what they're doing, don't know what they're watching, must be of interest. I stop the bike and I go over there and I find out that it is, and if you haven't seen this, it's an amazing thing. It's a statue made of steel, and it. I don't know what the name of it is, but it's very well known. I've seen it plenty of times on videos, but I had no idea what corner of the world it was in. And it forms a male and a female, and they go together, and it forms one. And I think it's called the love something or other. Amazing thing. And that's what they were watching. And this thing of it happening, coming together, which is an incredible feat of engineering apart from anything else, wonderful design thing, only happens once a day, and it happens at 7 o'clock at night. And by pure coincidence, I arrive there at 20 to 7. And it's stuff like that, you just pinch yourself because you think, I don't even know what made me come off the motorway to go down the road to Batumi. I've never heard of it. And then I see a crowd of people and blah, 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 blah. And then it only happens once a day. Wow. Okay. So I moved on from there to a city which ended up being probably my favourite city in the world. And this is somewhere I would undoubtedly go back to, but not on a motorbike. I would fly to and just have a holiday there, which is the capital city of Georgia, Tbilisi. Absolutely stunning place, an incredible history to it. I'm a bit of a buff on architecture. So this really interested me that they had suffered, maybe 20, 30 years ago, a really, really big earthquake, which damaged hundreds of properties. And what they've done is they've shored these properties up. They've made them secure and nothing else. Okay, the people themselves must have been moved out of them and given alternate accommodation, whatever. And systematically, they're rebuilding them. They're pushing them back. An incredible job. It's going to take years and years and years and years and years, decades and decades and decades. But it's brilliant what they're doing. There must have been a temptation just let them drop. No, we're not going to let them drop. We're going to rebuild it in defiance of this earthquake. Amazing place, absolutely beautiful. Everything about Tbilisi, I loved the people there, loved everything about the place. Very fabulous, fabulous city. Definitely go back there. Another city on my best list is a city very close to Siberia in Russia called Kazan. And that was a unique situation. When I rode in there, that sounds like John Wayne, doesn't it, when I rode in there? And when I rode into Kazan, they have the most amazing mosque, church. Never seen anything like it. I mean, even Moscow blows you away. You know, St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow takes a lot of beating. Some of the ones in Istanbul, amazing buildings. But this place in Kazan, it was partially because of its location, but also its uniqueness as well. Just breathtaking, absolutely breathtaking. Really, really, really cool experience to see that in its glory on a sunshiny day, imprinted in my brain. I'll probably never forget that one. So, final thing that happened on this particular 4 or 5 day thrilling trip was I wanted to get to Azerbaijan, and it happened like this. I got there, I knew it was going to be the peak of this particular trip. I knew that this 5,000 miles away from home, Caspian Sea, everything was going to be just wow. And so I got there. Capital of Azerbaijan is, I should know this, it's where the Formula One races, can't even think of it now. Is it Baku, it is Baku. So I get to Baku. And when I get to Baku, there's a small beach, 100 metres, somewhere around there. It is an incredibly hot day. I didn't plan it. I didn't think about it. It just happened. I stopped the bike. The bike's engine is adding to the heat. So you get really, really, really hot when in slow traffic and the heat's burning down and the engine is hot. The whole thing combined is very uncomfortable. So I take my jacket off, I take my trousers off, which are my biker trousers, take my boots off, and I've got like jeans underneath them, and I literally probably stepped onto the sand and immediately realised that the sand is like burning hot and it's burning my feet. So I run because I've made my mind up that I'm going in the sea. The Caspian Sea, I've ridden all the way to the Caspian Sea. It's boiling hot. The sea's going to be cool. I'm getting in the sea. I don't care. I'm not bothered like this. So I'm running across only a short distance of 50 metres, whatever it may be, across a beach, okay? And suddenly I'm in the sand head first, and a guy has rugby tackled me. I'm running across the sand. I didn't see him. He's run behind me. Boomf, rugby tackles. And he's shouting at me, not in English, but in whatever his language. I have to calm him down and say, I'm English. I don't know why you're shouting. And he said, no, don't do it. Don't do it. And what happened is he's watched me arrive on the bike, take the helmet off, take the trousers off, take the jacket off, and then sees me running into the sea, and he thinks I'm going to kill myself. You know, I'm on a suicide pack. I don't know why he thought that. I've no idea at all. Never will know why he thought that. But that's the picture he saw. He just saw me riding up, getting off the bike, putting all my stuff down. I suppose there was a risk that I was putting all my stuff down. Somebody comes along and helps themselves to it, don't they? You know, so I don't know whether that was part of the reason why he thought I was leaving everything behind and going to go and top myself. But anyway, he thought that's what was going to happen. It didn't. And we were fine. We actually had a drink together and we a joke from there. It was a highlight to me. As I say, it was one of those moments where I just thought, wow, I'm here in these set of circumstances, all this way from home. Azerbaijan, amazing. Real a peak. I had 3 or 4 peak areas, Siberia, top of Norway, Svarstad, and this one. They were the extremes. They were the places where I got so far away from home, and I was essentially turning round and coming back. Didn't come back in the same route, but nevertheless, the peaks where this is as far as I'm going. So there we go. Right. Again, hope you're enjoying this series. That was number 8. We've certainly got a few more to go. Don't know how many yet, but please send us your messages if you're enjoying it. Cheers.